Nope. Green light means we're good, I guess. I was just out here trying to film an automotive video, and I plugged in to my phone, and I thought my phone charging port was messed up, or the cord was messed up, so I had it plugged in out here. But then I remembered I cut a breaker, and I cut the cables coming to it that I thought were useless, and one of them apparently went to there. So now I have to fish through here. Yeah. So let's test this and make sure the power's turned off. I definitely cut that one. Okay. Nope. If you were doing this from scratch and you had no hole in your brick wall, the most important thing is that you have mortar all the way around your box. If it doesn't matter where the outlet goes on your brick, the easiest thing to do would be to start at the edge of a brick and leave that mortar joint right there, and then come to the other side and make a line about a ½ inch away from the box. And the actual box will end right here. So when it's all said and done, I'll have mortar all through here. Most people have a drill, so the easiest way to get this mortar out and make your new box hole would be to get a masonry drill bit and drill holes. They can be spaced maybe even a ½ inch apart. Drill right in the middle of the mortar joints that are existing if you're going with your mortar joints, and then on the side that's in brick, you want to drill just next to that outside line. Don't touch it, just next to it, and what'll happen is that'll leave some scallops And then you come back when you're chiseling all this out with your masonry chisel, you'll chisel all those scallops off and leave this a nice straight line, and then you'll have your perfect opening to fill with mortar and stick your box in. Before this sets up, I want to screw some screws all the way in here to make sure there's no mortar behind them or in them. Let's take our GFCI outlet out of the box. And see how this one likes to be wired. Oh, good. This one has the clamping type terminals. Most of these, if not all, come with terminals under here that are covered in tape. And if you'll notice, it says line right there, and on the other side, if I take this tape off, which we really don't need to take it off because this is the only outlet in the series, in fact there is no series, it says load right there. So what that means is, for this to work properly, the power coming into it comes in from, you could remember this by the power line. So power in has to go to here for this to work properly, and then any power out to the next outlet, for them to also be GFCI protected, they need to be connected here. So the power goes into the line and out of the load. Now if you don't care for the rest of the outlets to be protected, you can put your in here and your out there, or vice versa, same on the other side, and then any outlet downstream would not be protected. But in general, you want to bring your power into your line always, and then out on your load. Something else I want to show you, I hope you can see, is down here at the bottom is a wire strip gauge. I don't know if you can read that. but that little rectangle right there is how far you want to strip your wire for it to fit perfectly into the terminals. You would basically put that up there. There's the little strip gauge at the bottom, and that's where you would strip it to. Let's talk about grounding for a minute. There are always debates on grounding. Grounding is like just the most debated topic, I think, in electrical work. In a metal box, the metal box is supposed to be grounded. There are many different ways to do this. If you have, as we do, an outlet like this that is self-grounded, so see this has a little tab here. If you look really carefully here, the grounding screw is actually connected to the yoke here. So that's connected, all this is connected. All this metal in here is connected. So if we took this wire from our Romex, so this is coming in with the black and white wires, we connected it to our grounding clip right there. We could, in essence, just go ahead and wire this outlet, the black to the gold screw and the white to the silver screw. And when we screw this in place, this would complete the ground by screwing this into this metal plate. And you could just forget this. Or you could run the ground that comes in on your Romex to the grounding terminal on the outlet itself. So essentially all your wires, your white, your black, and your ground would come to the outlet itself, and you don't have to worry about connecting any wires to the box, because as soon as you put the screw in here, that will complete the ground to the box, and the box will be grounded. Now, if you have multiple outlets down the line, you could put the incoming ground to the box, to a clip or a grounding screw, and then take the outgoing ground that's going to your next outlet and attach it to the grounding terminal on this outlet, or vice versa. You could do all the wires coming in from your source power, including the ground, to the outlet. So that would be the ground, the white, the black, the neutral, the black conductor. And then the outgoing ground could be attached to the box via a grounding clip or a grounding screw. And then, of course, the black and the white would go out to your next outlet as well. Now, some people like to be redundant, and they put a pigtail like we did to the grounding clip, and then get another wire and pigtail the ground from the Romex and from the box to another third pigtail, twist those together and connect them, and then attach that to the grounding screw on the outlet. Due to the size of this box, we are just going to wire the incoming right to the clip. Now our ground wire coming from the Romex is bonded to the metal clip on the box. Now all we need to do is wire our outlet. So make sure we're on line, and we'll do the black conductor first, so that will go to the gold screw. Insert it in this little slot here, right there. Tighten that down. Good and snug. And do the same to the white. And to the clamp. I don't like how those are sticking out a little. I'm going to snip a little bit more of that off, just a little. I don't want to push this so far that the clamp is on the insulation. I want it to be all wire. That looks perfect right there. Nice and snug. Let's go back and do the same with black here. Nice and flush. Crank it down. There we go. And then just screw it in place as we fold our wires in. Accordion style it in there. The screws can almost touch that box. For a little extra protection, I'm going to wrap some electrical tape around this. Put this right over the screws. Pull these screws out a little bit. I'm just going to go around about 3 times. Make sure that's a decent thickness. See what that looks like. So now my terminals are covered, just to be extra safe. Not have this thing tripping all the time. Now we'll put it back in there. Now some people would go ahead and remove these plaster tabs because they maybe make the outlet sit too proud or get in the way, but I think it helps the outlet sit a little flatter against the brickwork here. Before I screw these all the way in, let's see how this likes to go on. Alright, I'm glad I looked at that. Before I actually screw this in, I gotta get the cover ready. I think we can screw it part of the way, like this. Alright, and then I'm going to push this in further. Alright, let's see. That's enough space. Yep, right there, and slot it down. Hopefully you can still see that, because I can't. And we forgot to put the foam on. I forgot to put the foam on. I'm sure you guys noticed. So it comes with a foam backer to seal everything. Perforations. Pop those out. Pop out the screw holes in the middle. And put those over the screw holes. Like that. Now let's see if we can get that on there. There we go. Slot down. Nice. All right. Tighten it up. Some people might say the box I used was way too small, and you know what? In hindsight, I agree. If I had to do this again, I would have cut the hole a little bit bigger and used a larger metal box because I'd like more room in there. And especially if you're going to have a series of outlets that are tied into this, there was just absolutely no room for any extra wiring to come out and go to another outlet using this box. This is one of the boxes I pulled out of the house doing some other electrical work, so it's a box from the 60s, but they make bigger metal boxes for sure, and if I had to do it again, I would use a larger electrical box. Alright, we've got it coming down from our outlet and our coil. I'm going to pull enough wire over here that we could go down into the box and all the way to the bottom if necessary. Down to there. Now let's look up here and see if we have a spot to come through. Oh yeah, this one right here. This is one of those self-clamping type. And there's only one wire going in there, so we can tuck our other wire in there. All of these can have two, so we can feed our wire in with that one right there. But first, let's fish it behind all these wires so it's not sticking out. And while I'm at it, I'm also going to label it with a Sharpie so I know where all these are going. I'm just going to try to pick a place I think this would work best. Motion and porch. 12. Yeah, maybe I'll go ahead and put it right next to the motion and porch, because those are outside. So we'll put it right here in spot number 14. And then we'll update our spreadsheet. As as always, I don't recommend anyone do this. If you do this, you do it at your own risk. There's a lot of stuff in here that can hurt you or get you killed really quick. So these two lugs right here, these two terminals, those are hot, and they're going to be hot all the time, so I need to make sure that I don't touch them. And all the metal in the middle here, these are called the buses. I need to make sure I don't touch those because those are energized. For most people, I would recommend go ahead and turn off the breaker before messing with this, but even if you turn off the breaker, these still are going to be hot. But I'm not going to turn off the breaker. I'm just going to be very careful, though I do not recommend you doing it this way. Let's fish our wire in the spot we've chosen. These metal clamps are a little more forgiving. There we go. Push that in there. There we go, that's better. Pull it through. Then we're gonna strip it all the way to the top. For this, I am gonna use my Romex stripper. Make sure my wires don't dangle and hit something energized. Get them up out of the way here. Cut the sheathing off. Since this is a sub panel, my ground is going to need to go to this side because this is my grounding bus, and my neutral is going to go to this side. So I'm going to go ahead and separate those, fish my ground through this side, go behind, being very careful not to touch this terminal over here or that red wire. Now if this were the main panel, the neutral bus and the ground bus would be bonded with this little tie bar here at the bottom. So you could essentially put any neutral or ground on either one of these buses. But for this, acting as a sub panel, I have to separate them. Since my breaker is going to be on this side and this slot right here, I'm going to go ahead and fish my black and white together. I'm going to go ahead and pick an empty spot for my ground here. This one looks good, or this one, doesn't matter. Fish that in there. I know this is not the neatest panel, but once I have everything wired the way I want it, I'll probably come back in here and neaten up the entire panel. So I just put that ground wire through there and tighten the lug. Make sure it doesn't slip out. Alright, now we come over here to this side. I'm going to take my neutral, I'm going to strip it enough to get it in one of these lugs back here. Like we've got an open lug, so you can see that right here, or right here. Let's do this one. Seems to be going easier up there. There we go. So hopefully you can see that. Tighten that. Make sure it's not tightening on the insulation. It is all copper. So I can see copper on both sides. Since this is an exterior outlet, it doesn't have to be arc fault protected. Just needs to be a regular breaker. So those are cheap and I have plenty of them, and I'm going to make it 20 amp like I said because I want to be able to use some pretty heavy stuff outside. I like to use my carport as a workshop. Here's my 20 amp breaker. It just has one gold lug for the black wire, which clamps down right there. Should have a strip gauge, yep, right there. But that's about a ½ inch, so I'm just going to go ahead and black conductor here, strip it about a ½ inch, put it into that clamp in the back of the breaker, make sure that it's all copper and no insulation being clamped, and tighten the screw. See if you can see it clamping as I tighten it. Nice and snug. And I'm just going to tuck my wires back in here. And these are snap-in breakers, so this is a piece of cake here. I just slide it butt first, and it's going to hook on that little hook right there, like that. So just the bottom is hooked right there, and the front is going to snap right over that. You can see in here, let's see, it's going to pinch right over that right there. That is in. Sure, it's nice and snug. Before I close up the panel, well, let's go and test the outlet. All right, so let's turn it on. Hopefully it won't trip. If it doesn't trip, we know everything's wired right, or almost right at least. That's a good sign. When I work outside, I like to run my tools on these big heavy gauge cords. So you can see the plug is a little bit different, and it wouldn't work on a 15 amp. So let's plug this in. Make sure it's reset. Green light means we're good, I guess. Plug it in. Now this big worm drive will be a good ampage test. Especially with cold oil in it. It may take a little power to start up. Now we just need to button up the panel and patch the hole in the wall. Now I gotta remember to add this to here. Since this video is so long already, and a lot of you already know how to patch drywall, I'm going to put the drywall patching in another video. Thanks for watching.